I grew up with it. When you grow up with it, it's normal. It's all part of it. You play. And as a quarterback, I think back then or any time, coaches got to know that he can rely on his quarterback to be out there and no matter what. And I even had one coach say, hey, you always play hurt. You always play hurt. Yeah, I do, don't I? Shoot me up. Yeah, it's just normal.
Right in the doorway, I walk in, he stands up and finds me. And now I'm going to go out and play. Another time he's telling me, if you don't play well in the first half, you're going to play Cleveland. I'm going to pull your rear end out of the game. I was talking to somebody not too long ago, and before the cameras even started rolling, he smiled and said, I got one question for you. Who's the greatest player you ever saw? I laughed, not because it was a bad question, because I've been hearing that one for most of my life. The truth is, I never really answer it that way. Football doesn't work like a stat sheet in my head. You remember people for different reasons. Some made you better, some made you nervous every time you saw them on the schedule, and some just earned your respect the very first time you watched them play. So instead of trying to rank the greatest players I ever saw, I'm going to give you the men who actually left the deepest mark on me, whether that was somebody lined up right next to me in that huddle, or somebody standing on the other sideline who I had to prove myself against before I ever earned my own respect. Before I get into this, I want to mention something. This is part of a series where we've been sitting down with the legends of this game and letting them tell you exactly who left the biggest impression on them. No scripts, no filters. If you haven't caught the others yet, go check them out after this one. And go ahead and hit subscribe now, because I promise you, every single one of these guys has stories just like the ones I'm about to tell you. Now, this isn't going to be a list of the 5 most famous names in football history. These are the men who stayed with me, whether they were setting the tone on our own defense or standing across from me trying to convince the whole country I didn't belong on that field. Number 5, Andy Russell. Before I ever got the chance to lead this offense to a championship, I needed a defense behind me that could hold up its end, and Andy was the captain of that group. In Super Bowl IX against Minnesota, our defense did something that's never been matched since, holding that Vikings offense to just 17 rushing yards on 21 carries against a team led by Chuck Foreman. That's the worst rushing average by any team in the history of the Super Bowl. Andy was right at the center of that unit, calling signals, making sure everybody around him understood their job before the snap. I didn't have to worry about carrying this team by myself in those early years because I had a captain like Andy setting the tone on the other side of the ball. People forget Andy was a 16th round pick, 220th overall, back before this organization had any idea what it was building. He made 7 Pro Bowls anyway, and Jack Ham said something about him once that always stuck with me. Jack said most players back into the Pro Bowl playing mediocre football on good teams, but Andy played great football on a team that was worse than mediocre for most of his career, before we ever became winners. That's the kind of pride and drive that man carried into this organization long before Chuck Noll ever showed up to change things. He was already setting that standard, year after year, on rosters that gave him no reason to. Number 4, John Stallworth. John came into this league the same year I won my first championship, a rookie in Super Bowl IX who barely got a chance to make an impact in that game. Nobody outside of Pittsburgh was talking about him yet. But I got to watch that man grow into one of the greatest receivers this league has ever seen. And there's one moment I'll never forget. Super Bowl 13 against Dallas. I hit him with a pass, and he spun off his coverage and weaved through defenders on a touchdown run that's still one of the signature plays of my entire career. Our own broadcaster back then, Myron Cope, described John's running style as a combination of sipping whiskey and white lightning. Smooth, with a strong finishing kick. That's exactly what it felt like throwing him the football. He went from an unnoticed rookie to a man defenses had to build entire game plans around. By the time John retired, he'd caught 537 passes for 8,723 yards and 63 touchdowns. Every one of those numbers a Steelers franchise record at the time. In Super Bowl 14 against the Rams, he caught the go-ahead touchdown on a 73-yard reception, and he still holds the Super Bowl record for career average per catch at 24.4 yards. 12 postseason touchdown catches, 17 straight playoff games with a reception, and he told a story once about the first time he landed in Pittsburgh. Cold, snowing, no big coat from Alabama, wondering what he'd gotten himself into. 8 months later, after we won that first Super Bowl together, People lined the highway from the airport all the way into the city like it was the middle of summer. He said that experience gave him a deep appreciation for the people of this city that never left him. Those two men gave me a defense I could trust and a receiver who turned my throws into something special. But the next name on this list, that one goes back to before I ever won a single championship, back when this whole team was still trying to prove it belonged. Now I'll tell you something about that Super Bowl IX team that people don't always remember. We weren't just playing for a trophy that year, we were playing for a man who'd waited his whole life for this exact moment. Number 3, Rocky Bleier. Rocky went to Vietnam and nearly lost his foot to a grenade, and doctors told him he might never play football again. He came back anyway, worked his way onto our roster, and by the time we got to Super Bowl IX, he was carrying the football for us in the biggest game of the year. 17 carries for 65 yards, right alongside Franco in that backfield. I remember something Rocky said about that week leading up to the game. He said by Wednesday, we were done partying. He knew he needed to rest and prepare for what was coming. That's the kind of discipline that man carried with him every single day of his life, on the field and off it. Every time I handed him the football, I was reminded that some of the toughest battles a man fights in this game happen long before he ever steps onto the field. While Rocky was still lying in that hospital bed recovering, Art Rooney himself sent him a handwritten postcard that just said, "Rock, the team's not doing well, we need you." He earned a Bronze Star and a Purple Heart before he ever earned a single yard back on that football field. And by 1976, he was rushing for over 1,000 yards in a single season for us. That postcard from Mr. Rooney, I think that's the whole reason he never gave up on coming back. Before I get to my last two names, go ahead and drop a comment telling me who you think I've got coming up next. And if this is the first one of these you've caught, hit that subscribe button, because there's a lot more of these legends still coming. Now this next name, I'll be honest with you, there was a time this man didn't think much of me at all, and I understood exactly why. Number 2, Fran Tarkenton. Before Super Bowl IX, I sat in a press conference right alongside Fran, a 14-year veteran playing in his second straight Super Bowl, and I could tell he thought they were going to beat us. He didn't have a whole lot of respect for me, and honestly, at that point in my career, I hadn't given anybody much reason to have any. I was young, I'd been benched, I'd been booed in my own city. But that week taught me something about respect in this league. You don't get it given to you. You have to go out and take it. We went out and beat his Vikings team 35-9, held that offense to just 102 total yards, still the smallest offensive output in Super Bowl history. I don't think Fran walked away from that game doubting me anymore. And I'll tell you, proving myself to a man of his caliber, a player who'd already established himself as one of the greatest quarterbacks in this league, that meant something to a young quarterback still trying to figure out who he was going to become. Number 1, Jack Lambert. There wasn't a man in this entire league who wanted to intimidate opponents more than Jack did, and I got to watch him do it for my whole career. In Super Bowl X against Dallas, after Cliff Harris taunted our kicker Roy Girella following a missed field goal, Jack grabbed him and threw him straight to the ground. Afterward, he told reporters, "No one can be allowed to intimidate us." That's who Jack was every single Sunday, whether the cameras were on him or not. I played quarterback for this team. I got plenty of the attention, plenty of the headlines, but I never took a snap without knowing exactly what kind of defense was standing behind me, and Jack was the heart of it through all 4 of our championships. He made offensive coordinators change their entire game plan just knowing he was on that field, and I don't think I win a single one of those Super Bowls without a man like him anchoring the other side of this team. So there it is. Andy Russell, the captain who gave our young offense a defense we could trust. John Stallworth, a rookie nobody noticed who turned into one of the greatest receivers this league has ever produced. Rocky Bleier, a man who fought a battle far bigger than football and still found a way to carry this offense when we needed him most. Fran Tarkenton, a rival who didn't respect me yet and gave me exactly the motivation I needed to go out and earn it. And Jack Lambert at the top, the heart of a defense that made every single one of my championships possible. Now, I already know some of you are going to argue with this list. Maybe you think Stallworth deserved a higher spot. Maybe you've got a name from those championship teams you think I left off entirely. Go ahead and tell me down in the comments where you think I got it wrong. And if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe because there's a lot more of these legends still coming. And I promise you, every single one of them has stories just like this one.